So a few years ago, I made a video about art school, and in that video I stated that if you can afford it, yeah, you should go. But I've since changed my mind on that. The reason why is because the world has changed a lot. The expectations of our industry's changed. The teaching or the tools, the education tools in art and concept art for games has changed a lot. And I would say that my opinions changed on that pretty dramatically, partly because I've been starting to get letters from people explaining their experiences with this to me. Now, don't plan your life based on what I tell you, but I would say that if I had a kid, if I had a young adult under my tutelage, the thing that I would tell them is don't go to art school to work in video games as a concept artist. I would say start your own business. Take whatever money you were going to put into an art education at a prestigious art college, and I would say maybe take local art classes if you stink at art, or I would say start a business around art or start a business around something that you're passionate about and use that money to learn how to make those customers happy. It is far more effective for you to get experience doing the job that you want to do by any means necessary, any way that you can, even if it means spending a little bit of money to keep yourself afloat while you study the craft, instead of going into a mountain of debt that keeps you from having any creative freedom or options in your life. Now, again, this is just my opinion, and if you disagree with me, hear me out, because here's where I'm coming from. I'm getting letters from people explaining to me that they've been accepted into a art school program for concept art for games from an art school I've never even heard of that wants to charge them $80,000 per year. That's right. I said $80,000 per year for 2 years. Now, based on what I know about my industry, which does not require an art school degree to work as a concept artist in games, it only requires that you understand the skills and the process and you've made some kind of a game before, or you're at least working towards making indie games or something, some experience in the business. $80,000, you could basically float your own indie game development for that $80,000 a year. Hell yeah. You could move to a smaller town. You could use the money to buy computers, equipment, buy yourself an education from books or from workshops from people such as myself or the many other myriad of concept artists who are just trying to make a few extra bucks on the side while they're working their day job as a concept artist on video games. Don't take a art school class from somebody who has no experience in the field that you actually want to make money from. Do your research on the business that you're trying to get into. Go to glassdoor.com, find out how much money does a concept artist working in games make. Well, you'll be really surprised to find out that a lot of concept artists only make $60,000 to $70,000 US a year. Now that's a lot of money, but if you've got $180,000 or $200,000 in school debt, well, then you got a real problem, because mathematically, with interest, that's like having a house payment. It's a house payment that you'll never really, truly get ahead on. And here's another thing you have to evaluate. What's your skill set, man? If you're starting from zero, if you've got very, very little art skill, don't go to art college, don't go to art school. Learning the fundamentals of drawing and painting is not going to cost you that much money. Hell, if you're willing to put the work in, a very small amount of money, less than a few $100s, will teach you everything you need to know about how to learn, specifically how to learn the fundamentals of art. Now, this is coming from a person, let me tell you a little bit about my own history. I did not go to art school. I could not afford art school. I remember sobbing into my pillow at night at the young age of 18, going, oh my God, even though I'm a published comic book artist, I can't afford to go to art school. There were no programs that could help me out because of where I was from and how I was born. Okay. There was nothing to help me. And so I had to pass on it, and I had to become resourceful. So I taught myself art. I started buying tons of anatomy books. I started buying tons of books on how to draw better. I started putting in a lot of late nights. Yes, I worked my ass off to overcome. Okay. All of that while working whatever job I needed to do to pay the bills. And that was important because it actually taught me to take care of my own problems, take care of my own responsibilities. Every single time that somebody bails you out, you really lose. They're buying something from you. They're buying your reliance. You lose your self-reliance. Self-reliance is the most empowering thing that you can accomplish, you can achieve in your life. The great Stoic Marcus Aurelius said rather famously that the obstacle is the way. And what that means is that the struggle you endure is how you will overcome. It is how you become strong enough to accomplish. It is how you will earn admiration of others. It is how you will have a fulfilling life. Greatness is not achieved because the road was made easier. Okay? Nobody admires somebody who had an easy road to greatness. And so not having an obstacle is a real disadvantage in that way. Okay? I'm actually quite passionate about this particular subject, and I seldom do anything or say much that would be very critical of any particular institutions or other people's business practices. But I feel that specifically with this field, I know that there are many really good art schools out there that will teach you the skills necessary for what you need. And I want to be clear, I know that there are teachers out there that are very passionate about teaching their students, and I really want to make that clear. But there are also a lot of, let's just say, predatory business practices in this particular field. And it's unfortunate because young people, you're hoping and you're dreaming that you can make something creative in your life and you can have a fulfilling career in that field. And I would say, hell yeah, dude. Making games, making art, having a creative expression as my primary source of income for many years of my life has been one of the greatest decisions that I ever committed to at a young age. However, I never once went into debt to do it. I would never recommend that you take on more than a few $1,000s debt at most at any given time to accomplish any kind of a business goal. Hell, I won't even take publisher money if I don't have to make a book or a game even. Because as soon as you take money from somebody, you are beholden to them and they take control of your destiny. And mostly this is about telling you don't go into big debt. A lot of young people think, oh, I'll just make lots of money later. Well, you know what? The percentage of actual people who do end up making piles of money later in their life is pretty small. Especially in the field of art where technology is developing and advancing all the time, man, you're going to give yourself anxiety. You're going to give yourself health issues. You're going to have a mountain of debt when you could have just bought a house with the same money, or you could have started a business with the same money and ended up on top after 10 years. Live frugally, live under your means, lower your cost of living as much as possible. Embrace the challenge of that as if it is a game and become self-reliant so you never lose leverage in any situation in your life, and you will always be in control of your destiny, of where you want to go. You take it on yourself. The onus is on you to learn those skills. And yes, certainly every now and then you'll need to buy a book about how to draw better anatomy or better storytelling or whatever your goal is, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Yes, you will have to work a couple of jobs from time to time, or you will have to take jobs that maybe you don't even want to take. But at least you will be standing on your own. You won't be reliant upon somebody else. It's the same rules as like if you're living with your parents. Remember, I don't know if your parents did this to you, but at my house, it was like, hey, for as long as you're under this household, under this roof, you got to play by our rules. Well, that's everywhere. That's the rest of your life. That's any company that you work for. That's anybody you borrow money from. That's anybody who gives you anything. You are beholden to them. If you're playing by their rules, you don't get to play by your own rules. And I'll tell you what, man, I would rather that you empower yourself, because I really am saddened when I read a lot of comments. I read a lot of messages from people who are embittered after many years of spending money on art schools that didn't pay off. They didn't play out the way they expected. Art school doesn't care if you get a job when you come out of it. You may think, oh, they're adults, they should be looking out for the younger people. And a lot of times they're not, actually. And in fact, I wouldn't necessarily believe that they're teaching people what they need in order to get a job. I've seen, quote, concept artist portfolios that have no concept art in them. And I'm thinking to myself, what did you pay for? You have all this student debt, but you didn't actually find out the skills that are required for you to be able to do this job. Before you pay anyone to teach you how to get a job doing what you want to do, find out how many of their students have actually successfully gotten the job that you want to get from them. So if you want to be an architect and learn how to build buildings that actually don't crumble, okay, that is like, there is a science behind it and a very specific route to which you get certain results. With art, it's a very subjective thing. And these days, most everything that you need to learn to be able to make really good art or build a business around your art, you can learn on your own. If you're self-disciplined enough and if you're determined enough and you actually put in the work, you can learn it on your own. Some people will be angry at my opinion about that. I may be attacked for saying this by art schools or people who've invested a lot of money in art schools. And maybe you went to art school and you got a lot out of it. But I'll tell you what, man, I'm getting a lot of letters from people saying they spent a ton of money on art school and they can't get a job. And now they're stuck with massive amounts of debt. And all of it was so unnecessary. And now these really creative people are trapped and they're not going to be able to get out. And then they become bitter. And I want to avoid a world of bitter people who've been exploited. Okay. That's what I'm about. That's why I want to empower artists. And in fact, I'm making it my life's mission. And that's why I create all the workshops that I do to try to pass on the knowledge and information from my industry, the things that I've done in my 30-year career. And yeah, I suppose I could charge tens of thousands of dollars for that, but I don't. That's ridiculous to me because I also don't want to leave people financially stuck because of it, because of their passion. I don't want to hold your passion for ransom. I am here to help you flourish. Now, how does that benefit me? Well, it's less bitter and resentful people in the world. Now, this is all, of course, my personal philosophy, my personal life strategy. And sometimes I get that response from people saying, oh, well, Trent, you're kind of an exception in this. But the thing is like, this is an exceptional job. This is not something that is like just, becoming a dentist or something. Like if you go to university to become a dentist, there's like a 99% chance that you're going to be working as a dentist when you get out of that. As a concept artist going to concept art school, depending on the school, of course, there's not as much of a guarantee. And paying massive quantities of money. And I'm talking about those schools that are charging you $20,000 to $50,000 or $80,000 a year. That is way too high of a risk for the potential outcome. Even if it is very successful for you, that is way too much money to be spending on an art school education. When I get letters from a lot of people who are 17, 18 years old, right out of high school, never went to art school, self-taught, and they're getting jobs at indie game studios, building their career, and now they're working at Riot Games, Blizzard, EA, like big companies, okay? So I've seen enough evidence to show me that it's not necessary to have an art school degree to get a job at these places, but what is necessary is that you have the skill and understanding. And a lot of people just don't bother with that part. And if you're really struggling with basic fundamentals of drawing, definitely don't go to some expensive art school if you're not even in the near qualification category. And if you are in that category of people who are like competent artists, maybe what you need to do is just tune your portfolio a little bit more towards the industry you're trying to get into and just start at a smaller studio. I learned how to be a better concept artist. I learned what a concept artist really does in the job of making games after I started shipping games. Yeah, I got a letter from a kid just the other week. He said, he was 17 years old, wanted to work in the game industry. I didn't write him back, but then 2 years later, he writes to me again and says, hey, I bought some of your workshops on concept art for video games. I took your advice. I started at an indie game studio at 18, right out of high school. Got some experience. Now he's working at Riot Games. I actually get a lot of letters like that. And you know what, kid? I'm proud of you. That is the reason why I started my YouTube channel. It is why I'm here. It is why I'm creating my workshops. You don't need to go into debt to learn how to make concept art for games. Just get my workshops. I've got a lot of stuff from the professional level of environment concept art and character design, like what I did on a lot of the games that I worked on. But recently I've been developing the easy art lessons, which is basically for beginners to advanced people who may be struggling with fundamentals. Here in lessons 26 through 30, we're digging into anatomy, specifically back muscle anatomy, which is just a lot of fun. And it's all built on all the fundamentals that you learn from the first lessons 1 through 25. This series is much more of a course, I guess you would say, and it's going to lead you into all the skills necessary to begin to develop environment concept art or character design, like what I've worked on in the past. And it's just all very exciting stuff. I'm thrilled to be back to making some workshops for you guys. And dudes, for those of you who are looking for YouTube stuff, hey, I'm here. I'm still doing about 1 video a week, roughly. So until next time, I'll see you in the next video. All right, ciao.